Welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever wanted to set yourself free, then do we have the 4 Sacred Gifts show for you. Today I'll be talking with Dr. Anita Sanchez, a powerful visionary of Mexican-American and Aztec heritage, an Amazon rainforest guide with the Pachamama Alliance, and the author of an incredibly beautiful and powerful book I consider a must-read for all of us, The 4 Sacred Gifts. And that's just what I want to talk with her about today, about Indigenous wisdom for modern times and how it can bring us peace and set us free. That, plus we'll talk about Tu Eres la Una, Arutam and the Ashuar, the power of Mirasols, candles and northerners, fishing rods and a dog named Max, a graceful warrior, falling dolls and light, and what in the world, a Philippine uprising and Kentucky fried chicken. Gotcha. Have to do with anything. So welcome to the show, Anita. Are you ready to shine?
Absolutely. Always ready to shine.
Woohoo!
Yes.
All right. Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about a sacred prophecy and then each of the 4 sacred gifts. But before we do that, what's one piece of Indigenous wisdom you could give us right now to begin changing our lives in this moment?
I think one of the key things is to understand you are never, ever, ever alone. None of us ever alone.
All right, let's go from there. Let's talk about the prophecy of the sacred eagle hoop.
Yes, it's a prophecy that came about in the mid 90s, and it was a vision of a Mohican elder, Don Coyas. And in that vision, his spirit told him to gather elders from all the 4 directions, all over the world, and to build a hoop and place 100 eagle feathers in it, where they would then place the 4 gifts to help all humanity to remember. It's really to remember, not to remember how to be in harmony with yourself, other people, nature, the whole earth, all beings. And that prophecy went out, and 27 elders from around the world answered that call.
Very, very cool. And we're going to dive more into it. We're going to get a little background here, a little bit of definition. What is Indigenous? And did we all start out as Indigenous?
Yes, well, the reality is Indigenous, anthropologically, we're all Indigenous. We're all made of the earth. We're all the elements of the earth, the stars, the earth, the water. That is who we are. However, there are some human beings, some of us, who stay to the original knowledge, to the ancient traditions, the original knowledge, and practice that and pass down. And so today, when we say Indigenous, people think of particular nations or tribes, of people from different traditions all over the world who carry that connection. One of the things that unites all the Indigenous people, there is a profound, intimate interconnection, knowledge that we are part of the earth.
Beautiful. And if I understand right, you took a trip to the high Andes in Ecuador for the first time, and you're there. There's some sort of a ceremony going on. You're on one side of the table. There's elders or an elder on the other side, and an elder came around to your side of the table. What happened?
That was quite powerful. The elder came around and took my hand and then began tracing my hand just the way my grandmother used to do. And so tears started coming. And he said, "Why are you on this side? You're a shaman. You belong on this other side." But he kept tracing my hand like my grandmother, who used to say, as she greet all of her grandchildren, there are many of us, I have a 121st cousin, and on Sunday she would trace my hand, I remember as a little girl, all the way up until she passed. And she said, "Tu eres la una. Tu eres la una." You are the one. That in my grandmother comes from a whole line of curanderas. And what she was saying to me is, you are to continue the healing, the tradition.
Uga Buga.
Yes.
And you have done that. What does your name mean?
Yes. Anita Louise means graceful warrior. And sometimes I'm graceful. I like to think I'm a warrior of love, of connection. And I have another name, though, because going to the Amazon for now 12 years, I have a name with the people, and it's called Mukasawa. And Mukasawa means bird of the region. It's a bird in the northern Amazon, in the sacred headwaters, that can talk to all the other birds, that it somehow mimics and knows and it has conversations with all of them. And so, of course, that just makes me smile.
Wow. Which means, so I'm looking off the corner of my eye above the monitor here, and I'm looking at a stuffed dinosaur that is wearing a service dog vest from my service dog from years ago. It says, "I'm friendly, please pet me," and her name was Sawa, which means in Tibet or Nepal, the enlightened one.
Oh, well, the Mukasawa, the bird of the region, is an enlightened one because it can communicate and realize it's interconnected. And I'll tell you, Michael, I love this because as a little girl, dreams, we'll get into more dreams, but they've been a major part of my life. And one I've had repeatedly since I was 3 was that I knew that I didn't have language for it, but I knew part of, and there are millions of us, were to connect the hearts. So I drew stick people and the earth and we had our hands on each other's heart. It was to connect hearts all over the world, and there's so many of us. And so, now I have my grown-up version of it. But I'll tell you, I will never leave that 3-year-old or that 5-year-old, the 7-year-old, the 10-year, the repeating of that dream, because I think there's a wisdom that comes in that early that doesn't get confused with the mind, with all the other things that happen to us as we get older.
I can't let go of my heart. We're sharing the same mission. In fact, we've got a website, onemind.earth, where we want to bring millions of people together to meditate together. And that's what we're doing today. That's the whole vision of this show, is help raise consciousness by connecting us all, which we're never disconnected. And that kind of brings us forward in the book. You say that we're acting as if we have no relations.
Oh,
What in the world is going on?
I know. Well, that, first of all, that is like the worst thing you could say to an Indigenous person is you are acting as if you have no relations. That's just like, because what that means is that you're operating in this illusion, in this nightmare dream that you're somehow separate. And so much gets taught to people like, you're only an individual, you're separate, you're not part of this, just do this for yourself, rather than we're part of one hoop of life. And the hoop of life knows we. It doesn't forget the individual. Me fits in the we, but it's about we. It's our interconnectedness with not only two-leggeds, but with all beings.
Beautiful. And since we're talking about not just the two-leggeds, what does it mean to be in right relation to nature?
It means like even in this moment, I know I'm here talking with you and that other people are viewing this, but I also know that this breath that I have, as I look out the window and I look in the other part of my office, it's the trees, it's the plants that are converting the carbon to oxygen. Thank you. I'm giving you the carbon, you're giving me the oxygen. I know that this glass of water that I have here, that I took a nice drink beforehand so that I could not have dry mouth and be present. Thank you, I'm part of that. That's it. It really means understanding that not only in this moment am I a part of, but in this moment, everything I choose to think, to feel, to do, to act, to understand that in service, is that benefit 7 generations out, not only 7 generations out for the two-legged, but is what I'm saying and doing right now in benefit to 7 generations out to the plant people, to the stone people, to the water people, to all of it. And when I am conscious and remember that I am part of all my relations, I just rise up. And you talk about shining, and there's no other thing to do. And
Woohoo!
it frees me. I have incredible freedom knowing that I am never alone. I may get lonely. That's a human condition that you can get lonely, but I am never alone. Everything is here. What's coming through is for me is it's not only what we see from our senses, but we also what we don't have from our senses, the extraordinary as well as the ordinary. I am part of that.
Woohoo! I'm just like, I'm starting to have tears. I'm holding up my rock, which holds space for me here. A rock off of this mountain from which I live, which is a volcano, although scientists don't say it is, but the local indigenous say this is a volcano. It used to be much bigger. And you can go and you can find the porous lava on here. Wow. Speechless. All right, we'll go from there. This is such a heart-centered thing today.
Oh,
Tell,
absolutely.
tell us about an uncle from the Osage Reservation who would draw a circle in the air.
Oh, my uncle, Uncle Litter. We would go and we would visit a couple times a year to the Osage Reservation. And I always wanted to go outside and play, but really the best time was when we were to come in later in the afternoon before eating, and we'd all sit on the floor. And he wasn't a very tall man, but to me, he was like just huge. And he would raise his hands and put them in a big circle, and he would say, "This is what it means to be a human being, to know that you are connected to people, earth, and spirit. We are one. We are one hoop of life." And he would share lessons from them. We would just all lean forward, Michael. Even if you had to go to the bathroom, you just like, forget about that. You didn't want to miss a word. You would just lean in and listen to him talk about how much power we have. Because he would go on and say, so if you decide to do something nice to this other person, you not only do something nice to your cousin, to your sister here, you're doing something nice to the earth and to the spirit. And if you do something mean and hurtful, unkind to the person, you not only hurt that person, but you also hurt the earth and spirit. And he would go right around the whole hoop talking about how to honor the sacredness of all things, and that when we operate that way, that's what we're calling forth. But he also, I don't think I put this in the book, he'd also tell us we are all sacred, and we need to remember that everything we do is interconnected. And you will learn as you grow up that even though all beings are sacred, sometimes two-leggeds forget they're sacred and do not act in sacred way. So that means you do not have to allow yourself to be hurt by anything else, but you also do not disrespect them or other them or make them as if they are not part of the hoop of life, because then you're right back into that initial lesson, hurting the other, acting as if we're not all connected and all sacred.
What's something we're going to be jumping into shortly about forgiveness? I look at everything and everyone as we are all one. And that I literally mean that. So to me, it's an arm fighting with a foot or something like that. You don't have to condone their actions. You don't have to allow them to continue or say that's all right or agree with it. But we're still all one. And if I go back to your uncle, all of life is sacred and everything matters. So as you were saying as a little girl, wow, I'm powerful.
Very powerful. So with that, I did feel like we would all be leaning forward and sitting up straight, because it was like, wow, how much power. But then there was also this little bit of like, oh, I don't ever want to hurt anything or anyone. I don't want to be part of that. I want to be part of the life-giving part of the hope. That's the intention.
Yeah. And that's the goal. And it means that if we do bring out part of that separateness, if we have a moment of wave of anger or upsettedness, first off, we realize the repercussions. And then secondly, I think it's important to do what you can do afterwards if that has taken place, because everything matters. Forgiveness is so powerful. Actually, forgiveness for ourselves is incredibly powerful. So let's jump ahead. First off, what happened at the annual American Indian Science and Engineering Society's Leadership Summit in 1995? And what does that have to do with the four sacred gifts?
That's where I learned about him. It was the perfect timing, because I was cycling into this, oh, what am I doing diversity inclusion work? Men who aren't the 42 long size aren't rising fast enough. Gay, lesbian, bisexual people aren't. Women aren't rising. I was just in my mind. But I came to this event that I volunteer at, teaching young people who are about to go into corporate world about how I teach them things that I teach in the corporate world, but I also teach them, how do you stay true to your culture, to your values, in places and spaces that might feel antithetical to that are suffering in the illusion of separateness. And so at this gathering, the elder came forward, and there was this beautiful hoop, and he shared this story, Don Coyas, of how this vision came and how he was frightened, because Spirit said, okay, you gather, and then you put 100 eagle feathers on this, and then you will hear from Spirit what the four gifts are. And he was like, in his mind, where am I going to get 100 eagle feathers?
That's what
Well,
I'm
and then
thinking.
immediately what happened is people started giving him eagle feathers. They would come in even in the mail, but people would go long journey. And when it was time and the 27 elders, 26 plus him came, the 100 eagle feathers were there. So they created the hoop, sang their songs, chanted all their own languages, meditated silence, being with the earth and all the nature. And then at the end, they put 4 gifts in there that Spirit said, we've been in a great winter time, and the winter time's going to last long. And we need to put these gifts in for human beings to remember, all humanity, not just Indigenous people, all human beings, to remember of how to create harmony and oneness. And so the 4 gifts are the power to forgive the unforgivable is the first gift. So that's the first gift. And we'll talk about the power to forgive the unforgivable. The second gift is the power of unity. Unity will take all of us, right, to create and support this amazing hoop of life. And then the third gift is the gift of the power of healing. And we'll talk about healing. It's different than a pharmacy. It's really an ongoing process that's a gift that we all have. And then the fourth gift, I love the fourth gift too, is the power of hope in action. So hope is an energy source. And those gifts I began using when I was at this thing. I was like about to leave my career of doing diversity inclusion, anything else but that. And when I heard those gifts and I talked to the other elders, it was like, yeah, I was meant to be here. There is no coincidences, right? And so I started using them. And I not only started using them, I started slowly weaving them into work with corporate executives, international global corporations all over the world, Hewlett Packards, the IBMs, the Xerox, construction companies. I mean, just all over. And everywhere I went, no matter what the language, people would go, slow down, slow down. I want to write the 4 gifts down because we all know we all have these already. We have the my publisher won't like this. You don't even have to buy the book. It's wonderful because it'll show you how to use it. But that's the story. That's the elders reminding us. It's a gift. It's an invitation to be who we are meant to be. And these gifts, we use them. We will remember how to be in harmony with ourselves, other two-leggeds, and all beings.
How to be a human being. I
Yeah,
emphasize being.
being. Yeah, not just the doing. It's the being. The doing will come from the being, and then it'll be the right kind of, the in right relation kind of actions because it's coming out of the fullness and wholeness of being part of the hoop of life.
Woohoo!
Yes.
All right, we're gonna dive into the first sacred gift, the power to forgive the unforgivable. And well, I can't believe I'm going to put it this way. Please forgive me. Do you mind if I ask? I'm going to ask a few challenging things. First off, what happened on a hot midsummer afternoon in 1967?
Yes. What happened was my father, who was an alcoholic, he came home from work, and every day when he'd come home from work, he worked really hard. He would go to the neighborhood bar and have a beer, and then he'd come home. But this afternoon, he went in and he happened to sit, it's the mid 60s, a lot of racial tension, which there still is, but really at the height back then. And earlier that day, a white man and a black man were having an argument. And my father happened to sit where the black man had sat. And my dad was fairly dark complected. And the white man returned and only saw the profile of my father's head and shot 2 bullets and killed him on the spot. And as you can imagine, I was 13 at the time. My brothers and sisters were aged 9 to 18. My mother, 7th grade education, her whole life changed. And I have to tell the other piece of the story. So it was really hard. It was really difficult because it was confusing because there was also abuse wrapped up in my history too. So I had this wonderful elder wisdom from parts of my family, and then I had this secret. But what happened the week after my father's death, I think is important for people to hear because what happened is a white woman and a young white boy who was probably somewhere around my age knocked on her door, and I was always by my mom for weeks after this. The white woman said she was the wife and the son of the man who murdered my father. and that she had to come. She said, Mrs. Sanchez, I had to come say, you have to understand, my husband was a good man. He never would have killed your husband if he knew he was Mexican American, or he knew, she didn't say Mexican, if he knew he was Mexican and Indian, he thought he was Black. And then she started saying all these horrible things about Black people. And I remember my mom was very earth-based, very Indigenous, but also very Christian Catholic. And I remember she shook, and all of a sudden she screamed and she said, stop, stop. You don't even know what you're saying. You don't even know what you're teaching your son. I want you to know I'm going to try really hard to pray for your soul, but you get off my porch. And then that night she gathered the six of us and she taught me something that forever stays with me. She said, I want you all to know a white man murdered your father, not the white race. I believe most people to be good and kind, just wanting to live healthy and raise their children. And then she opened the Kansas City Star, and there was a picture of my father on the barroom floor, and there's blood all over. And she goes, and this is racism. This is the only time I think my mom ever talked about. She taught us a lot of things, but didn't use the word racism. She goes, this has to stop. Because if a white person has violent thing happen, they never show pictures of it. But if it's an Asian person or a Mexican or an Indian or a Black person, it's all over. And this has to stop. So lo and behold, what the work I do later. But that was very powerful. And that's where I began to learn about forgiveness, because what people didn't know is that it was horrible to lose my father and my mom and what we were going to do. And the police showed up to explain to us after the incident what had happened. And they said, Mrs. Sanchez, do you know anyone who would want to hurt your husband? And inside of me was, oh my gosh, I killed my father. Because my father was also sexually abused me, raped me repeatedly from age 4 to 13. And it stopped just before that with his murder. So there was lots to forgive. So when you said before, Michael, oh my gosh, and forgiving yourself, I know a lot about that.
How were you able to do it? And I think things came to a crux at 21. You're in school and you cracked and you got in the car or got in the truck and you just
Yeah.
drove.
I drove the 9 hours to Kansas City to be with my mom, to confront my mom, because I realized, yes, my father, it's horrible what he did. And I don't at all condone the behavior, but wow, at 41 to end your life is gone. He never got to reconcile it and maybe never would. That was his journey. But my mom was there. So I went to my mom and I screamed, and I never screamed at my mom. I was taught not, you don't scream at your elders and stuff. I was like, where were you? Where were you? And all of this happening. And I remembered her crying too. And I said, and when the police, what I just shared with you, said this, and she was really quiet. And she said two things. I wanted your father to be gone too, not die, but I wanted him to be gone because of all the hurt he was doing. And she said, I didn't know the level of which he was hurting you. And you're right. I wasn't there for you. I'm here for you now, whatever you need. And her saying that, you people, there was something that was just lifted. That first of all, I wasn't alone in this. First of all, there's still much more years and years of forgiveness, but the big weight got let off, because all of us want, all right, our primary relationship with two-legged is with our parents, whether they're your biological or adopted or foster or whatever. And so that began the healing of a beautiful relationship with my mom.
How important is it? Thank you so, so much for sharing. How important is it that we forgive not just the average experience, but truly forgive the unforgivable?
I believe that I not only believe, I know from everything calling off from life itself and from other big things, and Indigenous people have been genocide, we have to, we are invited. Elders would never say have to, Spirit would never say have to. We're invited to forgive, to let go, because what that really is, I didn't understand what forgiveness meant. Forgiveness doesn't mean you forget. Forgiveness doesn't mean you're weak. Forgiveness doesn't mean you betray your whole group of people. Oh, if I forgive, then I'm saying it's okay. If, Forgiveness doesn't even mean you don't seek to change the systems and structures that allow that hurt and mistreatment to occur, whether it's on an individual or huge group, national levels, whatever. Once I got that, I realized, oh my gosh, I'm free. I had been building up this wall of this armor of separate illusion of separateness to keep out all the bad stuff. But what it was doing, Michael, was keeping out the good things. And I hear lots of people, both inside of business, outside in communities and homes, who are building these things of separateness. And what it does is, yeah, it might keep out some of the hurts, but it's keeping out all the good stuff. And that's where like these other gifts are so important, because I could never be totally in unity with myself. First of all, just connecting my head and heart and my body, my spirit, without letting go of that. So it gave me, it's a path to freedom. It's a path to unconditional love. So I want this to sound exciting and shining to the people who are listening, because it is worth, it's difficult, but it's so worth to have that freedom. And recently at Sundance, a sacred ceremony, an elder came to me and said, I hear you're the forgiveness woman. We know about your book. We know about you carrying this prophecy forward. He said, but I want you to think about something else. So this is the first time I've shared this with a larger group, Michael, you and all the viewers, is forgiveness is the passcode to your divinity. Whoa. I put that right beside. It has been my path to freedom. It has been a pathway to unconditional love of myself and then to others. And now it is the passcode to divinity, for we all are sacred.
I'm once again speechless. There's a project we're working on. There's something that I teach all of my coaching clients. Call it the open-hearted warrior, of
Yes.
leaning in, shields down. And I've got forgiveness is the path of the open-hearted warrior. It is the path to divinity. It allows everything else in. Thank you. So speaking of
Well,
the
thank you. Because it's coming through. It's coming through everywhere. See, it says remembering. So we have to speak this remembering. Thank you.
I just had a beetle land on the camera while I was doing this. I wonder if it was going to go on the lens. It didn't. The box elder beetle, and
Oh,
it
good.
stayed until it felt like we just finished this little bit of forgiveness, and then it would. Phew. So, when we talk about allowing in the goodness, I am. It's a term that you used in the book. I'd never heard it before. A mirasol, meaning. I mean, it's a sunflower, but to me, it means in the morning, 7:45 this morning. The sun came up over Basalt Mountain, and I'm outside on the deck. It's about 15 degrees, maybe 20, and I'm out, glasses off, taking in the sun.
Absolutely. That was my grandmother. Oh my gosh. I love that you brought this up, because I just told a group this weekend at a conference, Pioneers, this story, and they all were just like, oh. So my grandmother, Aztecan, she followed her husband to Kansas City and left everything back in Mexico. But she didn't leave her ceremony. She didn't leave her tradition. So I was 4. My little sister must have been 2. My older sister was 6 or 7. And one of the nights when we stayed with her, she got up real early in the morning. It was totally dark, got us all dressed, and we went out to her garden. And she said for that day was a special day. We would never forget it. And that day we were going to be with the sunflower. And that's it. She didn't talk about all the learnings we'd had. She said, we're going to be with sunflower. So we started in the dark,
Mm-hmm.
and then the light came up, and we were facing the way the sunflowers were facing. And then all day long, every hour, she'd bring us back, and for 5 minutes, we'd be quiet, and we'd just be with the sunflower. Well, as you can imagine, all day long, we kept turning, facing the light until it was dark again. And the thing I just remembered, there was many learnings, as you can imagine, being with the sunflower, that even in darkness, you search for the light, you seek the light. We are part of each other, the interconnection, the learning that I can learn about the cycle. My system is like their system. If we want to have wholeness, what I forgot, Michael, is what happens when it is dark. Where are the sunflowers looking? They're looking at each other. I forgot.
Ooh, go,
The
because we're going right to
sunflowers look. So
unity.
we need to all write, yes, we need to remember
We
that,
are the
we're
light at
never
that
alone.
time.
We are connected. And when it feels challenging and, oh my gosh, is the sun ever going to come out, or, metaphorically or reality, we look to each other and joy that who is here with us, two-leggeds and other beings. That is so, my grandmother is right. She is just like, this will stay with you forever. And I'm getting to share it with many other people.
Oh, woohoo! I'm just like, I got tears, I got goosebumps. Where are we going?
That's the joy of unity. When you really get that, and I got it at a cellular, and it was even beyond cellular. I mean, got it at a planetary level. I really believe, with my grandmother teaching us that then we know in unity so much is possible. Because again, we do nothing alone. That's the illusion too. Is being alone. I'm gonna, no. We're here because somebody birthed us. We're here because of giving us continuing life. We're here because of all the different supports that are here. And we just have to remember. And then we can open our hearts more to that unity, dropping down that. Well, I forget the language you used, Michael,
Open-hearted
because
warrior dropping our
yeah,
shields.
there you go. I wanted to use your language so people can go and find that from you. Then, oh my gosh. So the power of unity. And unity is going to take all of us. All of us matter. All of us are wanted. We're here for a reason. And in these challenging times, every single gift, don't matter how small you think it is, how big it is, it's all part of the hoop right now. We need it.
Beautiful, beautiful. So continuing more on the second sacred gift, the power of unity. This beautiful, beautiful word. I love it every time I hear it. Sawubona.
Yes. Sawubona is one of the African Ghanaian saying, although it's used all over Africa, South Africa, different places. And it's basically about it's understanding our relationship. So once I am conscious of you, forever we are connected. I see you, you see me. It's almost like out of the avatar, I see you. And the seeing is beyond the eyes, right? It's it's the heart space. It's the energetic space. It's the if your viewers go like this right now, when they go like this with their hand,
Yeah.
waving it in front of them, what do you feel?
A
You
lot
feel
of
something, right?
energy. A
Yes.
lot of
You're
energy.
feeling the atmosphere. You're feeling all of that we're a part of.
Another word just popped up. It's not part of your book, so forgive
Huh?
me for going
No,
there, but
it's no.
Ubuntu.
Oh, Ubuntu.
So we are
Yeah,
all one.
we are all one. So many the indigenous wisdom, the tradition keepers all over the world, and it's not gone. I even have a hard time saying, and sometimes I'll say ancient, but yes, but we're here. They're not gone. They in many indigenous people all over the world, out of hurts and mistreatments, they tried to genocide, they tried to kill us, but they forgot we're seeds. And what all of us need to remember, all human beings, we are all seeds. Yeah.
There's when I was down at the World Summit of Nobel Peace Laureates, I can never get her name right. I need to just practice and practice and practice. There's an indigenous grandma who's a Nobel Peace Laureate from Guatemala,
Mhm.
and she talked about like Chichen Itza and these other places and the Yucatan, and she said they are not ruins.
No, they're alive. They're
Bingo.
abs- they're absolute. All of this is alive.
Exactly. So going from there, I'm going to stay with this topic for just a minute. What can you tell us about Standing Rock and the importance of that?
Oh, so important. I so love, first of all, many levels is important. Um, Young women started with the running. It was young girls and women who began that. And we know from prophecy we're in the time that women are to rise, not against men. Men are come along. We need the divine masculine and feminine both. So it's time to do that. But also all these hurts and treatments that were between some of the tribes, when it became the water that most of us are made up of, that it was about this sacred water. So all of a sudden, all these hurts and mistreatments just fell away. Forgiveness happened. Unity. People say, "Oh, that'll come back. They'll be angry again at each other as soon as you disband." No, it hasn't. It is so deep and wanted that that unity continues, and that sacred water, having people all over the world come, has started a whole movement. There's so many movements going on now about the water all over, reawakening with different indigenous people from different traditions. So now we even have in New Zealand the first river. The rights of nature started in Ecuador, but now we have the rights of a particular river seen as a person with rights, and we want that. Some people say, well, that's kind of weird. Well, you need water for life. We want to protect that water for you tomorrow, for all the generations going forward, all the animal beings, everything. So it's huge.
I'm seeing all these different strings come together. My wife and I we were invited many years ago to a Venus passing, and I think we actually have is it not Saturn passing? We have another Mercury passing coming up in just a week or two. But there's a Venus passing, a planet passing in front of the sun. 13 indigenous grandmas got together on the Big Island of Hawaii to bless the water, and we got to partake in this. And I'm drawing all these things together.
Yes,
I
I'm
guess
like,
we've got to go from there to the Oshawa, and who are they? What was their nightmare dream? Because now that you're talking about New Zealand and a river there getting rights, the Oshawa are responsible for Ecuador, probably the first country on earth to have
it
forest
is.
rights, to have water rights. And I'm not
Yes.
talking about rights to take away the forest or the water.
No, it's the rights of nature back in 2008. Forgive me if it might be 2009, but I think it's 2008. Indigenous people all came together, and it was them. They were leading it. Other people, allies, joined and supported them, but they really knew they were speaking because they don't live. The Ashwa, the Sapra, the people who live in the rainforest, in the Amazon, if you ever get a chance to visit them, you immediately like
They
something
are
different. They
the
don't talk about be
forest.
living in the rainforest. The way they are part of the rainforest. What would it be like, Michael, if we all operated, acted as part of the earth, the place we are at, a part of the water, a part of the trees, a part of the birds? How might we be behaving to one another? We'd be doing the hoop of life, the thing that we vision, right? So yes, so that rights of nature back then has now spurred onto a whole movement where we have across the Americas different indigenous people, especially with their sovereign nations, getting the rights of nature in their reservations. We have in Europe cities getting the rights of nature. We have all over. So the power of what's happening with this is why the indigenous wisdom is so important. So many of these movements, the beginnings of them and the courage in that are coming from the very people that people have forgotten about, who think, they're just a few, and isn't it nice? But okay, well, they can open with a ceremony and be quiet, move out. They're not the solutions. No, indigenous wisdom, that's part of all of us that we're invited to remember is what is being called for. And so now we have, even in the UN, the latest report on the state of our biodiversity, it is in there. It is absolutely essential that indigenous people be a leader in this, because for one reason, for many reasons, because of the wisdom we've been talking about now, but also 80% of the biodiversity of the most biodiverse lands that are left on this earth are lands that indigenous people have been, I don't even want to say protecting because that sounds hierarchical, have been in harmony with. And so others need to learn how to be in that harmony so that we don't end life as we know it. Rather, we do as life is supposed to do, which is evolve, expand, serve many, 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 many generations out.
The word is escaping me. I'm going to call it caretakers because it's not servant. It's escaping stewards of the
Yeah,
land.
steward, Michael, if I could suggest, is also hierarchical. So I don't
Oh,
even use,
yes. Okay, I'm going
I'm
to go
really
with you
fiddling
on
with
that
my
one.
language too, is that steward means I am stewarding you. I know. No, it's about getting in that natural understanding and flow, being the first scientists, indigenous people, where we understand how things work, what just enough is to use, and gratitude for what you use. And don't cut down all the trees here. cut one tree and walk big distances to build my house because we want it to be regenerative. Regeneration is what Indigenous people understand, being in flow. So I'm still struggling with the language, Michael. But in fact, somebody just asked me about it because I saw Stuart. I said, you might want to think about that's still hierarchical. And so it's about being in right relationship with, being in harmony with, because the nature is teaching us too. It's not hierarchical. It's a flow.
I was in New York City many years ago. We were doing I think it was we were on our barefoot walking book, barefoot running tour. We're
Huh?
teaching all people to connect with the earth, and there was some bird of prey that had landed in a tree, and my wife and I were like jaws dropped, looking up at what's this bird of prey doing in the middle of New York City. And this guy, he's got his briefcase, he's tightly dressed, he may or may not have had a cup of coffee, and he's wondering what we're looking at, and he looks up and he goes, "I don't do nature."
Oh,
And I am, first off, my heart goes out to him,
yeah.
but it's such an expression. But we are living, walking, talking expressions of the earth. We
Yes.
are the dirt. We are the earth, every one of us.
We are nature in human form. We are the universe in human form. So I'm glad you heard. Like, so it's not a judging, but sending love and light to that
Yes.
person, um, and because that's the forgetting that's happened, and that's part of what we've created, the suffering that's happened. But we also, as human beings, we can bring the humanity, we can bring the wholeness back, we can bring the oneness, is what your whole mission too is about. We can bring all that back to awareness, to consciousness.
Woohoo!
Yes.
So we're going to tie this right in with the third gift, the power of healing, and we're going to go to the Sapara here. What does Naku mean?
Yes. Well, Naku is a healing place, and you're going to have to remind me because it's a Sapara word. Did I put the actual
Forest.
forest? Naku is forest. It's where I got my name, Mukasawa. So Naku is forest. And it's a healing center that the Sapra people, there are only 570 some of them left. And when you meet them, they're most joyful people. And they have incredible medicine to heal I had fallen down and I was just black and blue on one of
Yeah.
my journeys there. And when I walked in, they just immediately, these plants, I've never had a bruise go away. I bruise easily and it'll last a year.
Yeah.
This was gone. Like, I was with them for a week. It was almost gone. They have, they know, so they tell us we will be gone. These people, the Sapara people, will not be here. We know that from our dreams, but they're not sad because what is also true in their dreams is that their medicine and that forest, the sacred headwaters of the Amazon, continues on, continues infinite. I mean, they don't use the word infinity, but it's like, forever. The gesture is, it goes on. So they did their part at the time they're meant to. And so they're beautiful. The Naku is a beautiful place and beautiful people.
Thank you. Thank you. From there, what does it mean to listen with the softest part of your ear?
Yeah. We need listening. We have peace talks and all these things, but what we really need is some peace listening. And listening, fundamental to all these gifts that we're sharing, these four gifts, is really, but particularly healing, is to listen, because we don't even know that something needs to be healed or something's off unless we pay attention. And so when I say listen with the softest part of your ear, that's beyond just that organ, because it's not only listen with the softest part of your ear, there's something, you're getting new things that I've been listening to in ceremony. It's also listening with the expanding heart. Didn't you like that? That came through recently in Kyrgyzstan in a week-long ceremonies with Indigenous women. And I was like, oh, thank you. Because I was able to hear it from listening with the softest part of my ear, that I could sense the expanding heart. And it's like, that's what we get invited to be and do, is to really listen, first of all, to ourselves, so that healing of ourselves, because the more we're able to be healed, the more able we're able to give and be in flow with the rest of it, but also to then model that and to know that it's on a daily basis. Like, there's the tiny little hurts and mysteries, we get to heal those. And then there's the big ones that may take a little more time, and sometimes magically not a lot of time, but we get to heal those. And so listening some fundamental things are needed for healing that I found in looking at Indigenous people from different traditions. And let me see, you'll remind me if I don't get them right, because they only need to hear them. It is listening. It is supportive relationships.
Yes.
There it comes again. Never anything alone. It's unconditional love. And it's being in positive action. Right?
Woohoo!
Because the
Yes.
GPS doesn't work, right? When we say, how come it's not telling me where to go? Well, you have to start the car, you have to move. So,
I
I
call
made the
that the
wrong.
two-step dance. You can't
There
just
you
dive in,
go.
on the inside. It's no longer cave time. You got to get out there.
Yes, it's being in that positive action. So, what I found those four elements in healing were present, and there's lots of different ways and deepness and different varieties. So I don't at all. You need to go and learn them from all the people, but this is more like an invitation. It's so exciting, all the different ways in which we can heal.
Woohoo!
Yes.
You had a nightmare at 19.
Yes. A big one. Yes, I love to dream. I love to go to sleep. And at 19, something happened and it lasted for several months. I'd go to sleep and this nightmare would happen. And it was, I could physically feel it in my sleep. And what it was is that I'd be asleep and then all of a sudden this curly haired, it looked like a doll,
Yeah.
kept falling and kept falling. And I'd wake up and I'd grab my chest and I was like, like I didn't want to go back to sleep. And so I was getting really pretty haggard because this lasted for a couple of months until at one point the doll is coming down. I'm starting to see other things, a building behind and this deck, not kind of messed up, not very good railing. And I see the doll hit the ground and it's broken sidewalk um, and I just, but then this time where I'm seeing all this and the doll hits, I'm right beside her. I'm looking at the doll and light is not the right word. It is this infinite sense of well-being light. There is no talking about connection because it all is. And I don't even see the doll anymore. It's just this powerful, beautiful. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I'm catching my breath. But now I want to go back to sleep because it's no longer a nightmare. But what I did, my family, is I always share my dream with my mom. So I was like, oh my gosh, mom, it's so beautiful. My mom wasn't there. I called her. No answer. My little sister, my second choice of sharing a dream, not there, not at work. I don't know where she is. So my older sister, who's really not into dreams so much and some of this stuff, love her. She passed away 2 years ago. Love her, but I get her. And she goes, Anita, I'm at work. I said, I know, but I have to share this dream. It's been a horrible nightmare dream. And it turned this beautiful dream. And she goes, oh, okay, but hurry up. I got to get back to work. I said, well, and I tell her just what I told you this doll. And it hits the ground and my sister starts sobbing on the phone. I'm like, Paula, what? And she takes, I'm like, can you stop sobbing? But she's just sobbing. She goes, I'm sorry. I was supposed to be watching you. And you were so little and you went off and you fell 2 stories and you hit the ground and we thought you were dead. And I was supposed to be watching you. And I'm like, my gosh, I was just trying to calm her down because my sister is only a few years older than me. So I was 14 months. That means my sister was only like 5.5. And I said, Paula, stop. And when she finally did stop, I said, thank you. And she was like, what are you talking about? I said, the light, this energy. If they had taught me this in Catholic school where we all went, I would have studied better in Bible studies and stuff because this was the most amazing. What I understand now, I get that death, the opposite of death, of being alive is death. No, it's rebirth. It's understanding the connect, being part of this whole thing. And she was still sobbing a little bit, but yes, it was so beautiful that at 19, that memory came, and it was important because I was doing all of my journey and work. And I think that was an important piece that I needed to remember, that again, understanding all the gifts, all of them, we talk about them as four sacred gifts. They're intimately interconnected, right?
It is.
Anyone we see on
You called it the forever light. This was such a
yes, it is.
profound experience, but to me, and I'm sure to you as well, calling your sister and specifically telling her rather than telling mom or anything,
Oh, it was
this was
absolutely,
the listening that she needed to be heard to set herself free. She didn't even know it.
absolutely. She was freed up totally. And she got freed again with this book because she was at towards the last few months of her life when my book was soon to come out. And she did not want the book to come out because she thought it was too much personal family business in there. And I said, no, it's a healing for me, but it's healing for so many people because if they can see I can do this, then they're going to see they can do that. And if theirs is even bigger hurts, they're going to know it's still possible. And so I read her that story and actually she corrected me because in it I think I said I was 10 months old and she read the whole thing and she said, I'm glad you're putting this book out into the world. She said, but you were 14 months old. So she was still my big sister and I was got to change it before it went to print.
Very, very cool. So when we talk about, you said if you realize, then you'll realize things are still possible. So let's go to still possible and a dissertation that you were doing everything in your power to avoid, but you did something that we can all do. You asked and you listened of nature. And what happened?
Well, I'm not sure which to start because I have so many stories of nature, which one it was, but it was, oh, the eagles. Oh my gosh, that's a big one. Yeah, so that story's in it. People love that story. And they're showing up, Michael. So I felt like I've done a lot of good in my life. And then I'm working on a doctorate. And I did not want to write that dissertation. I'm an extrovert. So sitting quietly writing is not an easy thing for me. And so I got really angry one day and I went out my back deck and I look out on the divide and I scream. I was screaming at God. My mom would not, I even lower my voice when I'm talking to you, I realized. And I was screaming like, why do I have to do this? I don't need a PhD. I'm going to find a way to get into different places without it. And then I went inside and then I slammed it. I said, okay. And it's all glass. So it's not like there's really an in and out very much. So I said, okay, every day I wake up at 5 o'clock and I have to go bathroom. So I'm going to come out here. And if an eagle flies by, then I'll go downstairs and I'll write and I get up at 5 in the morning. So I'll write for 3 hours. All right. So the next day I go to the bathroom, I go out, and the eagle flies by. Okay. I go downstairs, 3 hours. For the next 3 months, I go out and a darn eagle flies by. So I go downstairs and I sit at the desk and it's okay if I even sleep at the desk, but my book gets written. My dissertation, not my book. At that time, it felt like a book too, because it was a dissertation got done. And it was the eagles. The eagles are part of my relations. We're all related. And to this day now, when I have, I check my body, I check my heart about, is this mine to do? Or is this the thought I should be thinking? But when the big ones happen, I look outside these windows and sure enough, if an eagle flies by, okay, I got it. I got the message. I'm going to do this. Yeah.
And they're
Thank
looking
you.
at you. They're looking at you. They're looking through you. They're kind of giving you that
Yes.
look.
Oh, you can, the eye. Then they fly very, very close. I'm talking about only like within 5 feet. So you
Oh
can
my
see their
God.
talons. They're
And hear the
beautiful.
feathers.
Oh, gosh. Yes.
So
The
let's,
wingspan.
oh my God, let's go from there. We could just keep going and going. I'm going to go real quickly to the fourth sacred gift, the power of hope. And tell us about the blessing way ceremony for your then 20-month-old son, Nico.
Oh, yes. In fact, it's in this room where you're interviewing me. It was in this room that we had a circle of 13 people, and Eddie Box, who's an elder who's passed transition to the other side years ago, and he came and did a blessing way for my son, who was about 20 months old, and so I took off his shirt.
Mhm.
My son, I'm holding him, take off his shirt, and Eddie comes and he's got his full eagle feathers regalia, and he opens the sacred earth from down there, and it's just powdery and it's red, and he opens it and he goes to start to put his fingers in there, but my son with his little pudgy fingers pushes his hand really lovingly away and puts his hand in there and starts. He starts with her. He starts and he does this thing with his arms, chest. He does this like not a 20-month old, and Eddie's just looking at him and I'm looking at him, and he does this whole thing, and then Then he touches Eddie's hand. Eddie closes the thing, sits him down. Eddie gives him a gift of a flute that it has the turtle and it has the cardinal. And Eddie explains to Nico that he's a cardinal and that that he's the turtle. He's a little turtle going through
I'm
life.
holding on holding up
Yes.
my
Oh,
turtle
it's so
here.
beautiful. I love the turtle. And of course our Earth, Turtle Mountain Chippewa. Turtle Mountain is what we call the Earth. Many of our tribes call the what we're on here. And he said, and the cardinal will let you know that everything you be and do is important. And Nico just looked at him, and then Nico tried playing the flute. It sounded like a 20-month-old. It wasn't very harmonious.
Mhm.
And then he set it down. And then Eddie goes to sit and starts chanting and drumming. My older son is sitting next to him, who's, about 6 then at that point. And as he drums, Nico starts dancing not like a 20-month. He's doing these movements and stuff. And then I hear my son, Alex, whisper to Eddie, how does he know? How does he know to do that? And Eddie's, still chanting it. And somehow in between the chants, he says, because the elders are with him, the ancestors, and they're with you too, Alex. They're with all of us. We only need to remember. And oh my gosh, it was so. Thank you for bringing up Eddie. I love Eddie. His spirit is so strong here, and my son. Oh my gosh, yes. So, and what it tells us, despite all the facts to the contrary, there is possibility, and that comes through the gift of hope. And so, hope is an energy source, and we can grow that hope. And we grow it by dreaming, night dreams, daydreaming. We grow it by visioning, by imagining. Many of the inventions that we had, the facts didn't point towards that. It started with an image, a vision, a dream, a possibility. Dreaming what seemed impossible is possible, right? Getting to the moon, all the different things that we do. So that fourth gift, please, I invite everyone to. I meet so many people who said, I've forgotten to dream. I don't dream anymore. I was like, that's all right. You can forgive yourself. And before you go to bed, just ask, hey, if can I dream? Can I remember my dreams? Because I think we all do dream. It's just
Have to
about
set that
remembering them.
intention.
Yeah. And they're starting to dream. I get lots of messages from
Woohoo!
people they're dreaming.
Chief Oren Lyons, a leader never takes away the hope of the people.
No, they never do. And Chief Oren Lyons is still alive, serving the people, the Seneca, the Iroquois Nation, um, East Coast, Northeast. And yes, and for a short time, I was actually on a board with him of Pioneers, and he repeated that message, which is yes, a true leader never takes away hope of the people because we don't know. It doesn't matter if you're a genius. There are some things that we still don't know. I'm not anti-science. I'm very much for science. I have a PhD in social science. So we keep the search and curiosity, but also open the possibility of the great mystery and welcome that to come. And with that, that hope becomes expansive. And so in the darkest times, um, for me, it was the abuse, but for me, it was actually not even the abuse. It was thinking that I wasn't worthy. And as a teen, it
How
was
did
like
you,
my
if you
own
don't mind
life.
me asking,
Yeah.
how did you, was it at 13 you then, thankfully it was aspirin that you grabbed?
Yes, I grabbed aspirin. It was a big jar. I grabbed aspirin because my father was gone, so the abuse didn't continue. The man who murdered my father was in prison. I'm there, but the horror of the images kept coming. Uh, of the rapes, the sexual abuse. And so I thought, I'm never going to be free. So I found a bottle of aspirin. I didn't want to take my mom's high blood pressure pill because I knew that cost a lot. We were quite poor. economically poor. And so I took that and I went upstairs, and I was, a kid. I didn't know. So I just ate as many as I could and got the trash can there because I thought if I throw up, I didn't want my sisters to have to clean. We shared our room. And that, first of all, I was not meant to go. Thank you. My body started convulsing, and I just started. And of course, in our little house, all my brothers and sisters, my mom come. When I could see it all, I could see they're all around like, what is she doing? We already had the death of, my dad. Like, what is she doing? But I saw them, and I know I want to be here. I'm sorry. Just let me continue convulsing and getting this all out of me because I want to be here. I'm supposed to be here. There's a reason I'm here. And I had some images. I don't know if I put them in the book. My grandfather made 3 rocking chairs. When you come to my home, you'll see it. It's in my family room. And I saw that. I'm like, oh, I'm so loved. I'm so loved. And my grandmother with those sunflowers. I'm supposed to be here. So those of you listening, what I learned in this hope in action of this going to the depths of that is that we are not our circumstances. We are not that. We are these sacred beings. We are these spiritual beings in human form. Our body does matter. We need to care for this and each other. And we are we can be, by using these 4 gifts, that invitation is we can remember how to be in right relationship, to create harmony for this one hoop of life that we get to be here. We get to be a part of. It's just...
Woohoo!
Yes, yes. So thank you. The invitation is there for all of us from all these elders. And if I could just mention, so the elders brought us in, but at the end of my book, it wasn't the right ending, even though these gifts were amazing. So I went out and found elders at this time, back in 2017, to give their wisdom. So it closed with wisdom. And then it still wasn't enough, because Standing Rock was happening. And it was like, what about the elders? Because elders doesn't mean just age. There are elders who are young. So I have 3 young people who wrote things at the back of the book who are elders rising from Standing Rock. And they're in there because it's about all of us. We are not our circumstances. We are not even the joy, because joy is to go so we can have new joy. So it's not about clinging on. It's about being in this amazing flow of life. Here, never alone, for each other, creating, co-creating. And I'm just so grateful at this moment, just being here with you and with everyone who's viewing.
It so goes both ways, Anita. In fact, I'm going to build us a hoop right now. We started this journey today, and we're going to still tell people where to go, and we'll do a meditation. But we started this journey today with Tu eres la una. Mm-hmm. And if I bring us full back around in the circle, nosotros somos los unos.
Yes, we are the ones. We all are. Thank you. That is truth. That is who we are, what we are.
We are the ones.
We are the ones.
I don't think I've cried more in an interview than today. It's been tears of joy. It's been tears of knowing that we are surrounded. And if you're listening, you're surrounded too. There's no, well, he's surrounded with elders and ancestors and spirits and light, but not me. No, all of us is all of us.
Yes, it is all of us. And all of us is not just 2-legged. It's the trees and the earth. It's all of us. It's all our relations.
This is the party. This is the party. So where can people go to find your beautiful, beautiful, I'm just going to, I haven't done this since Amit Goswami's book. I think it was, no. It was a amazing Indian gentleman that I was patting his book. I haven't done this to a book since then. Where can people go to find the 4 sacred gifts and to find out more?
Okay. So you can go to the foursacredgifts.com. Mm-hmm. FOUR, sacredgifts.com. And there you can learn more about the book. You can buy it. It's in Amazon. It's in the bookstores. It's in hardback, audio. But go to foursacredgifts.com, because I want you to have the free song. You can download the song that is the messages that was created for for the books, the messages in there. And it's beautiful. It's called In Right Relations. And so you can just download it for free. And don't worry, I do ask you to put in your name, your email, but I don't write you. People write me. I don't. And then I put stuff in Facebook. But so you're not, and I don't sell or give anything, but it's part of, it feels almost like a ceremony of naming. So if you go there, please, and if you just go buy the book, you'll see on the back, it'll tell you also there, in there, tell you where to go to get the downloadable book, song for free.
So if you didn't catch foursacredgifts.com, come on over to inspirenationshow.com and we'll get you over to foursacredgifts.com. Now, I was going to go, and I'm still going to ask you any last words of wisdom before we do a meditation, but I've got to bring now another little circle, a hoop that just occurred to me. When you did your PhD dissertation, they suggested strongly, shall we say, that you remove something that to you was incredibly important. I am now, maybe you can share with us, but I am now seeing that as positive fuel.
Yes.
For everything that you've done for this beautiful book here and for all of your work.
Yes. I had wonderful faculty. I'm totally grateful for them who helped me, and I got my PhD in 1987. However, when I was writing it, it was a 43 country sample of executives, executive directors and presidents of a nonprofit organization. And it was on visionary leadership. So in my research, I put in Black Elk. I put in Crazy Horse. I put in men and women, indigenous visionary leaders. And I was told to take them out. And I was like, no. And I went to different, no. And then I was told, and it was really out of wanting me to finish, and things have changed. So they said, take that out, Anita. You can't think you can get the highest degree there is and then put something that is not scientifically, is not in our whole, that's myth. And I was like, wow. And I took it out. I did take it out. I got my PhD. And I remembered my mom, who would tell me when I'd go to school when I was little, and they tell me that George Washington was the father of my country. I go, but my Uncle Lyra, he doesn't say that. And he said, and my mom would always say, Anita, if you want to get A's out there, then you tell them what they want to hear. But you come home, we tell the truth. And she was doing the best she could, and there was some wisdom in that. But they also said, when you get your PhD, then Anita, you go out there and you put in all the indigenous elders, whatever it is you want to do. People had a choice to hire you or not, but you go and do that. And so I think you're right. This book, this sharing of this wisdom is a part of the healing of that. It is also from the Wisdom Council at White Bison, where Koyas, who had the vision of that hoop, the eagle hoop prophecy, the council said, we know that these messages were to go out by a woman. We didn't know who she was. And then you came. And now it's many women who are out there sharing this, and many men who are embracing their masculine and feminine, because we're all that false separation and taking it out. So I thank you, because now you're one of the millions that I saw as a 3-year-old connecting each other's heart, taking the message out. And I so appreciate you.
Woohoo! I'm just tears again. I can't even get my woohoo out. I think it was like my favorite interview ever. I am no words.
Thank you.
And I was going to say that you met people where they were at, and now you can help bring them along, all as one. Any last words of wisdom you want to share? You've shared so much. This has been tremendous, Anita.
I think it's just use the 4 gifts. If you feel any one of them calling to you, don't ignore it. Just start there. Use them. And my hope for you is that it will do for you what it has done in my life. The invitation is always open. And for those who have doubt, welcome to the hoop of life. You still are part of the hoop of life. The gifts are there for all humanity, not just for me, not just for Indigenous people, for all humanity.
On that hoop, there are, if I understand right, dangling off of it, or actually, no, it's ribbons. There are 4 different colored
Ribbons.
ribbons
Yes, for
representing
the 4 directions, the 4 races of people. So you have the yellow direction, the Asian air, the element. You have the red direction, which is the earth, the Indigenous people. You have the black direction, which is the water, and the white direction that completes the hoop, and that's the element of fire. Fire that is part of regeneration, right? So that hoop is meant for all of us.
it requires all of us. It is all of us.
Yes.
Wow, wow, wow. That's it. Just wow. Would you mind leading us, Anita, in whatever you feel called right now? My brain has left the building.
Well, I think what I'd like to do is honor a Seneca friend, um, and who shared with me a few Seneca words, basically of thank you, great mystery. Um, because again, it's not just the facts, not just the science, it's also the spirit, it's the extraordinary as well that is here to support us and help us move through the challenges and to love even more massively, to just love. So with that, I'm going to sing to the 4 directions. So um, and all it says is thank you, great mystery. But it's not but, and this is not the form in Seneca it came. This is from walking the mountains, the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. So it's the wind speaking too.
And can I pause you for 1 second? Can you share with people what is the great mystery?
Okay, so the great mystery is something, some being, it's energy. Some people will call the great mystery universe energy, Allah, God, Buddha. It's expansive. That's
It
the great
is
mystery.
the great mystery.
Mystery, yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to start in the east, and I won't say the direction. I'll just move east, south, west, and north. And just as I do this, you can lower or close your eyes and listen with the softest part of your ear and the expanding of your heart in gratitude. Da da ne ho, da da ne ho, nya nya swami ho, nya nya swami ho, da da ne ho, da da ne ho. Nya nya swami ho, nya nya swami ho, da da ne ho, da da ne ho, nya nya swami ho, nya nya swami ho. Da da ne ho, da da ne ho, nya nya swami ho, nya nya swami ho. Thank you, great mystery.
Tears again. I've cried more this interview, Anita.
It's a good water, sacred water.
Thank you, water.
Yeah. And everybody listening, you can open your eyes and smile, whatever is there with you, and know you're not alone. And gratitude for you being here.
Woohoo! Thank you so, 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 so much. This has been phenomenal. This is certainly just what I needed to hear, but I believe it's what we all need to hear, which is why I called your book a must read for everyone. So thank you, thank you, thank you. That's all I can say. So got to crank it up here for the finish after I say that's all I can say. Thankfully it's written down. For everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, get the 4 sacred gifts, and begin setting yourself free today and shine bright. Woohoo! Thank you so much, Anita.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just had the most beautiful interview with Dr. Anita L. Sanchez on the 4 sacred gifts. To check out more incredible wisdom-filled interviews, click here, subscribe below.